Imagine sitting down at a fancy restaurant. The waiter places a sizzling, perfectly cooked steak in front of you. It smells delicious. It looks just like any other steak you've ever eaten. But then, you hear something shocking. This meat was never part of an animal. No cow was raised. No animal was slaughtered. This steak was grown, cell by cell, in a lab. A few years ago, a man named Mark Post, a scientist from the Netherlands, made history by creating the world's first lab-grown burger. It took months and hundreds of thousands of dollars to make just one patty. Today, companies around the world are racing to bring lab-grown meat to your plate at an affordable price. But here's the question that's dividing the world. Is this the future of food, or is it something we should never trust? Would you take a bite? Lab-grown meat, also known as cultured meat or cultivated meat, is a novel approach to producing animal protein without the need for traditional animal agriculture. Instead of raising and slaughtering livestock, scientists cultivate meat directly from animal cells. The process begins with a small sample of cells, typically muscle stem cells, extracted from an animal through a harmless biopsy. These cells are then placed in a nutrient-rich growth medium, a kind of cellular soup that provides all the essential building blocks for growth and proliferation. Under carefully controlled laboratory conditions, including temperature, pH, and oxygen levels, the cells multiply and differentiate, just as they would within an animal's body. As the cells multiply, they are typically grown on scaffolds, structures that provide support and encourage the formation of muscle fibers. These scaffolds can be made from various materials, including plant-based proteins or even edible substances. Over time, the cells fuse together, forming muscle tissue that can be harvested, processed, and shaped into familiar cuts of meat, such as steaks, burgers, or sausages. The entire process, from cell extraction to a finished product, can take several weeks, a fraction of the time required for traditional animal agriculture. And because the growth conditions are tightly controlled, the risk of contamination and disease is significantly reduced, potentially eliminating the need for antibiotics. The advent of lab-grown meat has sparked considerable excitement, particularly among those concerned about the ethical and environmental implications of our current food system. Proponents argue that it offers a more humane alternative to factory farming, sparing millions of animals from the cramped and often cruel conditions of industrial agriculture. Beyond animal welfare, lab-grown meat also holds the potential to significantly reduce the environmental footprint of meat production. Traditional livestock agriculture is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, deforestation, and water pollution. By shifting meat production to a controlled laboratory setting, we could dramatically reduce land and water use, as well as mitigate the release of harmful methane and other pollutants. Moreover, lab-grown meat could enhance global food security. As the global population continues to grow, so too does the demand for protein sources. Cultured meat offers a way to produce meat more efficiently, potentially addressing food shortages and improving access to affordable protein in regions grappling with malnutrition. From a health perspective, lab-grown meat offers the potential for customization and control over the nutritional profile of the final product. Scientists could potentially engineer meat with lower levels of saturated fat, cholesterol, or even introduce beneficial nutrients, creating a healthier and more appealing protein source. While the prospect of lab-grown meat is undeniably enticing, it has also generated its fair share of skepticism and controversy. One of the most common criticisms revolves around its very nature. Is it really meat? Some argue that by removing the animal from the equation, we are fundamentally altering the essence of meat, creating a synthetic substitute that can never truly replicate the complex flavors and textures of the real thing. Health concerns also linger. While proponents tout the potential for healthier meat, critics question the long-term effects of consuming a product grown in a laboratory setting, exposed to various growth factors and other substances. The potential for allergens or unforeseen health risks, they argue, cannot be entirely ruled out without extensive research. Cost remains a significant hurdle. Currently, the production of lab-grown meat is an expensive endeavor, requiring specialized equipment, skilled labor, and high-purity ingredients. While the cost has come down significantly in recent years, it remains to be seen whether it can compete with the affordability of conventionally produced meat. Unsurprisingly, the traditional meat industry has met the rise of lab-grown meat with a mixture of apprehension and resistance. Some see it as an existential threat, potentially disrupting established supply chains and impacting livelihoods. Others have engaged in lobbying efforts to influence regulations and shape public perception, often emphasizing the naturalness of their products in contrast to the perceived artificiality of cultured meat. Ethical and religious considerations also come into play. Some individuals object to the very idea of consuming meat that has not been raised and slaughtered according to their ethical or religious beliefs. Others question the societal implications of further distancing ourselves from the natural world and the origins of our food. Despite the challenges and controversies, the field of lab-grown meat has witnessed remarkable progress in recent years, driven by a combination of scientific curiosity, entrepreneurial spirit, and a growing awareness of the limitations of our current food system. A number of companies have emerged at the forefront of this burgeoning industry, each striving to overcome the technical hurdles and bring cultured meat to the masses. One such company is Memphis Meats, a Silicon Valley startup that garnered significant attention when it unveiled the world's first lab-grown meatball in 2016. Since then, the company has continued to refine its technology and expand its product portfolio, recently showcasing a prototype of cell-based chicken and duck. Another key player is Mosa Meat, a Dutch company founded by the scientists who created the world's first lab-grown hamburger in 2013. Mosa Meat has focused on developing scalable and cost-effective methods for producing cultured meat, aiming to make it a commercially viable alternative to conventional meat. Beyond these pioneers, a growing number of startups and research institutions are entering the fray, exploring different cell lines, growth mediums, and production techniques. This surge in interest and investment has led to significant advancements in the field, driving down costs and accelerating the timeline for commercialization. The real-world progress is becoming increasingly tangible. In 2020, Singapore made history by becoming the first country to approve the sale of lab-grown meat, granting regulatory approval to Eat Just, a US-based company, for its cultured chicken nuggets. This landmark decision paved the way for other countries to follow suit, signaling a growing acceptance of lab-grown meat as a safe and viable food option. As we stand on the cusp of this culinary revolution, it is tempting to speculate about the future of lab-grown meat and its potential impact on our plates, our planet, and our relationship with food. While predicting the future is inherently uncertain, several trends suggest that cultured meat is poised to play an increasingly prominent role in our diets in the coming years. Within the next 5 to 10 years, we can expect to see a wider variety of lab-grown meat products becoming available to consumers. Steaks, poultry, seafood, the possibilities are virtually limitless. As production scales up and costs continue to decline, cultured meat is likely to become more affordable and accessible, gradually shedding its image as a niche product for the wealthy and adventurous. Regulatory frameworks will continue to evolve, with more countries likely to follow Singapore's lead in approving the sale of lab-grown meat. This will further legitimize the industry, attracting more investment and fostering competition, ultimately leading to a wider adoption of the technology. Consumer acceptance will be crucial to the success of lab-grown meat. While early adopters may be driven by curiosity, ethical concerns, or a desire to try something new, widespread adoption will require overcoming lingering skepticism and appealing to a broader range of palates and preferences. The future of lab-grown meat is not without its challenges. Technical hurdles remain, such as improving the texture and flavor of certain products, as well as finding sustainable and cost-effective alternatives to the animal-derived ingredients currently used in some growth mediums. The emergence of lab-grown meat presents us with a unique opportunity to rethink our relationship with meat and the systems that produce it. It is not merely a technological innovation, it is a cultural and ethical crossroads, forcing us to confront our values, our priorities, and our responsibilities to the planet and its inhabitants. As we navigate this uncharted territory, it is essential to engage in open and informed dialogue, weighing the potential benefits and risks of lab-grown meat, addressing concerns, and fostering a shared understanding of the complex issues at stake. This is not a decision to be made lightly. It is a conversation that demands our collective attention and thoughtful deliberation. The future of meat is not predetermined. It is a choice that we, as consumers, innovators, policymakers, and citizens, must make together. And as you contemplate the tantalizing possibility of a steak grown in a laboratory, I leave you with a simple yet profound question. Would you eat lab-grown meat? The answer, dear reader, is yours to ponder.